to another episode of the Mere Mortals Meanderings. You've got Kyron here.
You've got Juan on this side.
On the 1st of March, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday. As usual, would love if you come join us live, like we see Patricia here in the chat and Cole as well. Meandering sessions are where we pick a loose topic, jump into it, and kind of have some unstructured thoughts that turn into some fun conversation discussions. We typically do not do this, but this last week we had I don't know, how long were we talking for? Half an hour?
Got that, yeah, half an hour.
One's like, yep. I need to go, I need to run off, got to go home quickly. We end up chatting for half an hour. Yep. And one of the things that I was talking about was a kind of YouTuber I've come across recently called Ran to Japan. And to describe him, he is he's a goofy English guy who very strong, like red hair, and he's late 20s. I think he's about 28 years old. Moved to Japan to improve his running, of all things. Okay, you might go like, man, that's a random ass place to go to improve your running. But I think it was kind of like he'd heard about this Japanese philosophy of running, which is he's transformed it into his own thing, which is work harder, not smarter. So kind of switching around the standard advice of working
smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe he says train hard. Train. Did he say work or train? I'm not sure. One of the two.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. So he does ridiculous volumes when it comes to running. And there's a couple of things. Maybe it's not as ridiculous as one might think. And so we're going to explore this little topic of volume when it comes to workouts and how to think about it, how that might change over the years. I've certainly noticed my volumes have changed a lot since I first started training. And this idea of not like, it's not completely ignoring the smarter portion, but how much investment of time and energy should you put into that, or can one put into that, and personal experiences of how that's come off. So have you seen any of his videos, Juan?
No,
check him out at all?
No.
So look, if you're getting into it, it's more like vlogging. He does all these things called like Scran to Japan, where he'll just do the segment of him eating food. And so typically the format of a video is like 10 to 20 minutes long. He'll talk about a race that he's doing or training that he's doing for about half of it. And the other half of it will be like random ass either ads and sponsorships of who's sponsoring him, whatever. And him going out eating food, or on the train traveling to some other place, or he's got rants to Japan where he'll rant about
something.
Like, there was all these foreigners here and they were loud on the train. That was maybe us in 2019. No, we weren't too disrespectful. Only one was the bad one.
That's right. I threw the ball into the shopping centre.
Into the shopping centre, and then also into the Roppongi Hills, also closed off centre, and took his shirt off in like a Buddhist park, I guess. I don't know. I did as well. So
that's true. But we both got yelled at. We both got yelled at.
Yeah, that was good times. Good times. So it's not a huge. It is more of a vlogging experience, which is probably why I've been watching it, to be honest. Because I'm like, oh man, I remember this. Like, this is what Japan looks like. Oh, I remember going to that rough area, or if he shows Shibuya or something, because I believe he's Tokyo based. So you do get that's part of the reason why I've been watching it. And then part of the reason is like, oh yeah, this guy's kind of like he's a 2 hour 12, 2 hour 14, I believe is his quickest marathon. So he's quick.
Yep.
But what I like about him is he does some kind of just like crazy shit as well, which is, I watched a video last night where he's like, I'm doing my first ultra marathon. Like, this is how it went. And this was from like 9 months ago. And it was like a charity race where you just run for as long as you can before this chaser car like catches up to you, and that car like increases from 1 kilometer an hour, 2 kilometers an hour, 3 kilometers an hour, or something, up to a pace. And so typically the winner will get to about 70 kilometers before they get caught. And he's like, "This is my first ultra. I haven't trained for it. I'm not prepared. Here's how I went." And he comes fucking third by running like 70 kilometers. So it's got a little bit of that streak of just doing random shit, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Does 280 kilometers a week of running sound too much to you?
Like, it sounds like a lot, man. It's a ridiculous amount for us, but it's up there when...
So that's essentially a marathon a day. 40 kilometers times 7 is 280. So
yeah, okay. I mean, it's huge. Like, it's ridiculous for us, but I've heard of those sort of volumes on the top marathon or top ultra marathon runners. Sure, they do that.
So for ultra marathoners, I could have imagined that. But he was going over some of the like actual marathoners and how their training prep before attempting like a really quick one, Kipchoge and a bunch of other names who you can kind of recognize, but not necessarily. And yeah, he was saying a bunch of them were doing these kind of 260 to 300 kilometer weeks, leading up to eventually doing a very, very fast
short marathon,
like 2 hours and some change maybe. So I don't know. You've been experimenting with upping the running volume these last months. How do you feel? Do you think you could ever get to a stage where you'd be doing that much? Let's take aside, like, you break your arm, you can't lift heavy ever again. Gyms are closed because of COVID. You just find yourself like, I've got the only thing I can train is running. Would you ever try and do this much volume, I guess?
Yeah, I think by hours, I could see if I basically got to a point that I didn't want to gym at all, or they closed or something else. An hour a day is probably where I'd cap it. So let's just say 70 Ks. 70 kilometers a week is probably, so let's push it, maybe 100 kilometers a week. I feel like would be the absolute limit where I would want to be getting to before either getting bored, or maybe if I'm doing that much volume, maybe I do get some joy of doing it longer. I doubt it.
Yeah,
I'll go 100K a week.
Yeah,
that seems like I'd cap it. So 200 plus. I'm like, wow, that's just seems insane.
So the real interesting thing that I noticed, and this is why I'm glad I watched that video last night, was as he's going over like, this is the first time I've done a like ultra marathon. And then he mentions, this is the first run I've ever done that's been over 3 hours in length. And I went, what? And yeah, if you think about it, okay, this guy's obviously over time gotten a lot quicker. I'm sure it sounded like he was reasonably fit coming into kind of training, and he'd done some other sports. Apparently he used to do like a lot of, was it Muay Thai or Taekwondo? So he used to do a lot of like martial arts, and he actually thinks that's why his legs are strong, because he has just done a lot of kicking type movements. And so, does that translate over onto running? I don't know. Once again, an interesting aspect I'd never
thought about
anyone else kind of claim before. But the thing with like crazy volume is once you get good at something, you get much more efficient, and so you don't actually have to spend as much time of it. So when he says 280 kilometers a week, we're thinking like, fucking hell, man, like I'm running, I could maybe run a marathon in like 4 hours, so that's 4 hours a day. I'm probably not going to be able to do that back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So that would be like probably 5 hours a day. How can anyone do this? Well, no, he's not doing that.
No, he's doing it in 2.5 hours every day.
And probably even quicker, because he's doing, on some days, he's doing like 3 trainings a day. So obviously this is kind of his life, and he's making YouTube videos. He's probably making enough money from that to kind of subsidize his lifestyle, I guess. So
Yep.
his lifestyle is the running. So, if you are to ask me or yourself, like, can you train 3 times a day? It's like, well, no. Well, I probably can, but but for Juan or for most normal people, it's like, how is that possible? Like, I've got work during the middle of the day. I can't just run, disappear. But he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a 10K. And then he does 10K in half an hour or whatever. So it's like, well, okay. Yeah, obviously he's not spending that much time. He's probably spending 2 and a bit hours
per day, really. Yeah.
Really running. That sounds a lot more reasonable. That's actually sounds like, oh, okay, well, that's like a fit guy who enjoys training.
Yeah, you could, like, both me and you have had plenty of time where we've trained 2.5 hours. That's that's unfamiliar.
That's a regular. That's my daily occurrence. I do it in one big block. Not spread out. So I guess we'll get onto perhaps the smarter portion after the Boostergram Lounge, but just in volume wise, how have you noticed your volume and then also the time it takes to do that volume over the years change? Because I remember you used to calculate total tonnage.
I did. Yeah.
I don't know if you still do that at all.
No.
With that total tonnage, I assume that you could do that in a much shorter amount of time over the years. In terms of, like, it took me 8 hours of training this week to get X amount of tons.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Have you noticed that as well? Or
I don't know if I ever tracked it by the rates that I could do it in, but because when I did track it, I do remember the tonnage going up on a week to week or month to month basis, and the training time wasn't becoming bigger.
Your consistent training time, but volume's going up.
Correct, yes. The volume of or the weight itself in totality was increasing. So I guess you could say, I was doing more weight per whatever time domain you want to target at. So it was becoming better in that perspective. Sure. Yeah. Definitely. I would say, I'd probably say it'd be a 25% reduction, maybe even more, of the level of tonnage that I would move today in comparison to what I was doing at peak time. Maybe even more of a drop off, because I was doing, sometimes 10 sets of 10 of squats. And, that's like a lot of weight, a lot of reps, a lot of volume. Whereas now it's very much on the other end, where it's as heavy as I can, but very low reps, seldom any high reps for any particular reason, especially in the bigger weights department, I guess.
And how much time do you spend now compared to?
Yeah, much lower, and I think
25% lower.
I'd say more even 40% lower.
Yeah,
because overall, I don't think I've had a singular gym workout go over an hour. Maybe for more than a year, maybe more, definitely more than that. And there's 2 of my workouts at the moment per week, which are 30 minutes, 35 minutes, fairly quick. So in the past, they would either be probably at about the 70 to 80 minute mark, and definitely 10 years ago now, I vividly remember having 3-hour leg sessions, 2.5-hour leg sessions. So yeah, drop it from the peak. It's, more than 50% reduction, but even of the last year, it's been 20% reduction, 25% reduction on even that time of spending it at the gym itself.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's one thing I didn't anticipate, I suppose, so for me, I went to the gym once when I think I was 15 or 16. I was like, damn, if I just stayed with it, I could have got an extra 5 years, but it wasn't really until I turned 20 where I started hitting it consistently for, I'm pretty sure it was 3 days a week was my initial training.
Yep.
And that was during uni times as well. So I was very often missing weeks where it was big exams coming up. I'm not going to train at all this week or anything like that.
Sure.
So for me, it was when I first started getting into what I would call something that was actual training, because when I used to play soccer before that, I would train on twice a week and then a game, but that was always just it was fun. I never had to like convince myself I needed to go. There was never any barrier stopping me from.
For sure, yeah. It was like default motivation.
Soccer was just fun. It was always just fun.
Yep.
Whereas when I started getting into the gym, I started going like, oh, okay, there's a bit more resistance here for stuff. When life gets busy, I do notice I drop off. When I'm at the mine site and I've just had a big day and I've got abs coming up or something, yeah, I don't want to do it. I can see myself going like, ugh, all right, I gotta fucking go and do this thing. So I think when it gets to that level where it becomes a bit more of it's semi a chore, that's where the volume aspect can really seem like this is stupid. How is this possible?
Yeah. And then when you want to just work smarter, not harder in that point.
Yeah. Well, in essence, so when he talks about smarter, he's typically referring to the gear or the methodologies or the tricks of the trade. So, this would be refueling. How do you refuel during a run? What type of refueling are you doing? What kind of carb loading are you doing before or afterwards? Have you got like the newest and latest, greatest fucking Nike Zoom Air X523 joggers? What are the conditions on the day? Have you optimized for your sleep? How are you tracking it? Are you using a Garmin or are you using Apple? Because which one's kind of more accurate, and it can give you different stats on what your heart rate, all of that sort of stuff. Whereas he's just like, you just got to fucking run more. Like there's the thing. Like you just got to put in more hours running, and in particular running the style that you want to do, want to get better at. So for him, it's a marathon. He's really focused on a very quick marathon. So he's mostly running kind of marathon distances. He's not even doing that many short sprinting type stuff.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So I'm kind of, when people ask me about handstands, because that happens probably once every couple of weeks, someone will ask about a handstand or something calisthenics related. I remember saying this a couple of weeks ago where I was like, I feel bad in that my general advice is
just do more of it.
Well,
just a couple of years of it.
Yeah. My general advice has been like, you're not going to enjoy this answer, but you just got to train more. Like you just got to do a lot of volume, and it's going to take a couple of years.
Yeah.
Whereas typically they're asking like, how far should my hands be placed apart? Like when I cut,
it's like, don't worry. Yeah, it's like don't even stress about that.
Yeah,
it's like here's the absolute clearest example of this. I have not really ever paid much attention to handstand techniques or practice or anything to do with that. But I would say I have, quote unquote, done some level of handstand since maybe 5 years ago.
No, we were doing, you were doing some in 2019.
Yeah. So, 7 years ago, something to that effect. And I probably do it. It's not even a workout. I do some handstands for 15 minutes, 20 minutes a week. I'd probably say roughly about that. It's not much. But even I can say that after that amount of time now, when I go up and do a handstand in the, when you start getting a little bit of mastery or something and you can start focusing in on particular things, I would say only now for me, I'm starting to get the feeling of, I can put a little bit of pressure just on my right hand or just on my left hand and move my body a little bit. And I can bend my body one way and then bring it back and then do the other thing. And there has been zero in relation to the skill set and the technique and the positioning. I would say it's purely just been, I've just done, now it's like just coming up to I've done enough reps where it feels somewhat like I've got a little bit extra control in comparison to it. So absolutely, that's the equivalent of it's just a lot of effort, a lot of time, and you don't even have to worry too much about all the little things. It's just, you'll get there after a long time. Sure, if I put a lot of work on the technique and the practice of it, maybe it wouldn't be 7 years, it would have been 4 years. But because it's not of importance for me, my distinction there is, just over time, that the amount of effort and the reps that you put into it absolutely is going to do a difference. And then I was doing a video about this. The clear difference I see as well is in the mental game. The mental game is huge for this, where now when I go up to squat, and even if I'm feeling shitty, I'm feeling tired, it's a heavy, weight, whatever, I have done that many reps and that much effort at a squat rack that it is even on my most tired, most annoyed, non-focused, no music in my ears, whatever. I've got someone sometimes in a squat rack and I've got someone like in front of me like this doing something else in front of me. I can still get in there and do the movement and feel confident and controlled and do the thing that I need to. I can't even remember having failed a squat in like years and years and years. And yeah, probably part of that is I'm not
going.
I'm not pushing to like the absolute limit. So there's definitely that. But there is a clear example where it's just like I've the amount of reps that I've done there. And again, yes, I have focused somewhat on the technique, but the level of effort and reps there has far surpassed what I need to now put myself into a really capable position with it. And then inversely, where I see the limitation of that is in running currently, where I just haven't done the reps if I was to compare it to someone like in the squat rack per se. And there, I've talked about it before, if I was to do, it's in another video, if I wore one particular shoe versus another, I can see a difference of a couple of like 6%, 5% difference. And it's a meaningful difference to me there because I am such a novice at that particular movement. If, however, I'd put as much effort as I have in squatting to running, I reckon it would be a little bit of the inverse where it's almost meaningless. Yeah, pick whatever shoe, pick whatever food you're eating. But if you're doing 100 kilometers a week, and not even 200, if you're doing 100 kilometer a week, do that enough times, you're going to get to a point where it's like, that is the dominating factor. That is like the main thing about you being a good runner or doing that particular distance. It's just, you've done it that much time. It's not the shoe. It's not really how you're eating or how you're feeling on the day. And I guess, there's a comparison. If I squatted right now, there's a fucking squat rack right now, no prep, no nothing, I would be very close to be able to do exactly like my max numbers type of deal. And that's purely, it's not I don't have my shoes or I don't have my knee sleeves or I don't have the mentality. It's just purely, no, you can like ramp up to what you need to very quickly without all those other accessories that come around it.
Yeah. You used the word importance before. That stuck in my mind. And I think that's volume should match importance. So if you're wanting, and probably also degree of difficulty is another thing. Like if you just want to complete a marathon, the degree of difficulty is, I would say, lowish on that, in that you could probably almost walk one, I guess. So you
wouldn't be able to, because I think the cutoff is 6 hours.
6 hours?
And something minutes. And it's a faster pace on walking.
Okay. Yep. So just faster than walking, I guess. But a very, very light jog is doable. That probably would not require an extreme amount of volume unless you're starting from,
nothing.
I'm really, really overweight, or I've got a really serious hip injury or something like that.
Sure. Yep.
But when it gets to, I guess, the higher levels and things like that, the trick is the thing that'll give you the 40% benefit is volume. And yes, the small minutia, I think you won't even notice them. It's a really windy day at the moment. I used to train a lot outdoors for the handstands because I was traveling a lot. That was probably when I spent most of my time really learning, because I did spend a little bit here in Brisbane before I left in 2018. And I was just going over through some of my old logs, and I was looking at them, and I didn't really make notes back then, but I remember how I would feel after sessions and what I would take notice of, and one of the things I never really mentioned was the wind, if it was windy or not. Yeah. And I think at the time, it could be a day like today where it's pretty windy, but I'd still just be kicking up as normal, trying to just get into a handstand and hold it for 10 to 30 seconds was, I guess, my rep range at that point. And the wind, although I'm sure it would kind of push me over, and the pushing over was not enough to like match how much I was just wobbling naturally. So I'm sure it didn't help that it was windy, but I don't think it really hindered that much either. Because there was probably some days where I was falling into it, and it actually maybe like gave me just enough to stay up. Nowadays, if I go out there, I'll notice consistently like, all right, this is a little bit harder than normal because it's consistently pushing me from a very stable base slightly over. So I'm having to
correct it every time.
It's like a constant miniature strain that I'm now having to do. So I really notice it if it's windy now. It's like, okay, this is actually something that would stop me from doing, let's see, I did a minute 47 hold yesterday. That would probably decrease down to like a minute and a half on a windy day. I'd
the extra
notice
effort to like holding it through.
I'd notice like, oh wow, this is actually a 5 to 10% change in my performance. Whereas back then, I don't think it would have affected me that much because it was just another factor on top of a much bigger factor, which was that my fucking arms were too
just the whole the endurance strength.
Like I kick up and I'm already starting to wobble so much. So
yeah, I think the inverse. So the inverse conversation around this, I think, is the whole premise what we're talking about is work harder, not smarter. But I think embedded in that is it's the failure points. It's getting rid of the failure points that are the obvious failure points, and then getting to the smarter points of failure where, okay, then little things actually do determine whatever. But hence, like things that for me, running, the failure point, the easy failure point right now is just mental. It's just purely a mental thing. Why do I say that? Yesterday I ran 10K on the treadmill and then an extra K for a warm down. At 400 meters, I wanted to stop. At 400 meters, I really was like, I don't have to do this today. Yeah. And once again, everything in my mind was going, you've had a big week. You don't have to do this. Why don't you just go home? Maybe just do 3 kilometers and leave it at that. And then 3Ks would come. And then maybe 5Ks. Like 5Ks is good. I'm watching this thing and it's entertaining. But I'll finish at 5 and then it goes to 6. And somehow I got to 8. And then when I'm an 8, I'm like, okay, maybe I can get to 10. And then cool, done 10. And I actually wanted to do more. So I walked through a little bit and I'm like, I'll just do another K warm down. Now, for me, the failure point is the mental thing, because even after all that, I got off the treadmill and my legs are fine. There wasn't a gigantic pressure from a straining, like cardiovascular perspective. My legs are totally fine. So for me, the failure point, the easy failure point there is I just got to get more reps on running, on doing it. And the more this guy, the more I would do there, that's probably going to be the major factor to getting rid of that failure point. And if I get rid of that failure point, okay, then I should consider other things like the right socks, the right shoes, the whatever. But unless I get that, that's going to be the biggest difference between doing a marathon at whatever pace to running 32 kilometers and then running the rest of it. Yeah, something to that effect.
I did my first treadmill run on Friday. I don't think I've run on a treadmill for years and years and years and years. And I start to wear headphones nowadays, which was, if you remember from like 5 years ago, I was very anti-headphone. Yep. And I forgot. Or I'd already got onto it. I was probably like 200 meters in. And then I had a class afterwards. So it was like, if I dick around with this, I'll fail my goal of being early to the class. So I just ran it. And yeah, same thing, man. First kilometer, I'm just like looking up at the time, like, I still got roughly 25 minutes to go. Just plugging along. Like, it wasn't hard. I picked a pace where I was like 5 minute, 30 kilometers. Like, I can do this, and I know it's not too hard. And yeah, that was certainly a thing that was stopping me. It's not like you mentioned breathing through your nose the other week. Like, I started to try and do some nose breathing only. Hated it. Doesn't feel good. I don't like it. So I stopped doing that. Now, that's probably one of those like smarter things. Like
sure. Yeah.
Work on nose breathing. I remember the Foot Collective, if you remember. I had
do, yeah,
James
Yep.
on once or twice onto the podcast, and I remember he was one of the first ones telling me about like, oh yeah, you should try running, just breathing through your nose. And yeah, once again, back then I hated it, and I still hate it now. Like nothing has changed. So the when I think of running, a friend Manchiel, he was like, "What kind of shoes do you have?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just bought some random,
Nike shoes
shoes from the store." He's like, "What? You haven't like looked into this and stuff?" I was like,
"No."
I've got 2 pairs of shoes, and I alternate them pretty regularly, and I do not notice a single difference between the two. In my running stride, in how I feel, that I am very much at the beginner. Like the things that will make the biggest difference are not the smarter portions. Like that's probably the biggest. One of the biggest takeaways is to figure out where you are on that spectrum.
Well, no, I disagree. I think it'd be more like, I think I'll put it this way. If you bought the top level carbon plated shoes, you would feel a difference. I'm telling you 100%, you would feel a difference and you would run faster. But the improvement degree...
Would I run a 2-hour marathon faster?
You wouldn't. But the improvement degree of just doing the hard work is going to be, countless multiples better than just the upgrade that you get from the shoe perspective. I think is more the mentality, right?
Sure.
And one of the things again, you've been watching a lot of the videos, obviously, on running. We're talking about running because we're doing a lot of running. Is that over time, as people get better with running, I think the mindset that I thought, which is incorrect, but what I would have thought, because it kind of happens for me in lifting, is that in lifting right now, if I was to squat 100 kilos or 160 kilos, it's fine. Like I can do that, drop of a hat, just waking up, go do it. And I don't find the strain on my body as if I'd taken a month off and then go and do that. It's kind of like it's built and ready for doing movements like that. But for running, if I went to run 10 kilometers now versus what I was doing 10 kilometers, let's just say right at the beginning of doing the training, it's still the same amount of like mental exertion, I guess I would put it at, but you just become much better at being able to do both the physical and the mental distance of it. And I can't remember who was saying this, but it was basically saying, as you get better with running in this particular instance, it's not that, it was something from the Omnia podcast. They were saying, it's not necessarily that it becomes easier to do it at the same pace. It's that you get better at going harder in your own body and finding the capability of what you've kind of always been able to. Yes, you do improve, like you modulate your body to be better, but you just get better at being to go even further into the suck. So it still sucks to do a 5K at 25-minute pace, but if you get better, you just become better at going more into the suck and doing 23-minute pace or 22-minute pace. Yeah. It's sort of like, it still sucks to do 25 minutes. It never becomes, this is a really easy 25-minute thing to do until you get to extreme levels where, yes, you're just so proficient with it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I remember asking you this once about what does it feel like to lift 120K for you nowadays? And I don't know, you can answer that now. What does lifting 120K feel like? Is it heavy? Would you describe that as a heavy thing?
I would describe it as heavy, yes, but I would describe it as, I'd say a heavy warm up, controlled, like really controlled, heavy but very controlled.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, because for me, 120 kg is just like unfathomably the weight of the world on my shoulders. It's too much weight. In fact, I cannot lift. I don't even know if I could do 1 rep at that, squatting on that. And it would feel terrible. And what would you say?
So like as an example, after my workout of legs, my warm down procedure is 140 kilogram paused for 20 second squats.
Sure.
So I'll pause at the bottom, hold it, and my whole practice is like, okay, just breathe in and out, just get myself a bit of a stretch. Yep. That's like the feeling of control.
And I'm sure at one stage you were like me.
Yeah.
Many, many, many years ago, where you were feeling this, just like this thing is way too much. And so this is where I go, yeah, okay. it does get to a point where the things do get, I will say easier, but also it's not exactly like easy in the sense of I can be totally flippant about it.
Sure, yeah.
A 1 minute handstand for me is easy, but I can't be totally flippant about it either. I need to.
Yeah, you can't be mucking around. Be like, hold on a minute. No.
Yeah. There's still like a bit of concentration required, but I could talk for the entire time if I needed to.
Sure.
And I could probably move my head around and change shapes without really focusing that much. You could probably do something similar. So there's I don't know, that volume changes the feeling of things once you get good enough over time as well. So the smaller stuff does smaller on 20 kg.
Correct. Let's go into the boot scrum just quickly while it starts raining here in beautiful Brisbane.
Yeah, nice.
The rain coming. I was like, what's going on? I'll just have a quick look to see if there has been anything in terms of support.
I'm going to have a quick look at the weather.
No, we haven't got any big boostergrams, but we have had streams come through. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, for streaming as well. No beanie.
You want this beanie? Well, you don't get it.
You don't get the beanie. You don't get the beanie.
All right. Well, it's only meant to rain for the next hour, so
cool. Okay, that's good. One thing about the working harder and the working smarter and this whole context. One thing that popped up to my brain quickly was something that got discussed in the first time I ever heard about it was Huberman talking to Goggins around the AMCC, the anterior mid-cingular cortex. And I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. Have you?
Never heard of it.
You haven't? Most people, I think you hear about it and then it kind of goes away and then you hear it again and it makes sense. So let me just give you a couple of things about this thing. So the mid-cingular cortex, and in particular, it's the anterior mid-cingular cortex that people are thinking about in usualness. So it's a strip of cortex in the middle front part of the cingulate region. And it helps with effort, persistence, conflict monitoring, pain, discomfort processing, and goal-directed action. So let me just get to the actual, what's a practical way to think about it with this. It actually notices you wanting to basically quit, like the actual conflict behind it.
Okay.
And so to increase its size of the mid-cingular cortex. So the anterior mid-cingular cortex, put it strongly, is the thing in your brain that helps you to do hard things when you feel like they are hard things. And the only way for that piece of your brain to get better and grow is to do hard things that feel hard. That is the only way. So if you do things that are to push it or like to grow it, the thing that they were saying is that you have to be doing a slightly uncomfortable but safe. You have to finish what you start. There has to be some sort of practice in resisting the easy exit and trying to sort of stack the repeater wins. And this, to me, when I remember hearing about it from Huberman, and then I've heard it in other places, made so much sense to me in the examples I give about like gym training and lifting. Because I go, I don't imagine that it's distinct to like, oh, this modality and this modality is just like in everything. But I go, in training, I have done enough of the thing and pushed it enough where first time training, yes, it would have felt hard to do the particular thing, but over the amount of reps that I do, I now can get in there. But I've almost reached its conclusion of it is no longer hard for me to go and do a gym session in the anterior mid-cingular cortex. The way that it grows is if you're doing things that are uncomfortable or you don't want to do. But that's not the case for me at gym because I always want to do it. I'm happy to do it. There's very few times where I'm really pushing the boundary where it's really uncomfortable, but it's very few and far between. And I have a feeling that for a long time I was able to do that with the gym, and I push, go through it, got to a point where obviously I now have some great control and mindset around it, but potentially I haven't worked my anterior mid-cingular cortex for a while because it's been so easy from a gym training perspective that now I'm doing it with running. And it is here's the uncomfortable, the mental aspect of it. And it's just, getting back to the reps, it's just purely a reps thing. It's do it enough, grow it enough, especially in this particular modality, to where it will become it's now no longer an uncomfortable thing, a thing I don't want to do. I think I've got to like challenge myself. Mm-hmm. It is just you doing it. And that guy running in Japan, I'm certain that he's in that phase of his, career of running where it's probably very few and far between that he wakes up and goes,
Yeah.
oh, I really don't want to do this. Or it probably doesn't. He might still have that feeling. Like, again, everyone's human. You might still have the feeling of like, I don't really want to do this and whatever. But the actual act of doing it isn't that difficult in the comparable to, say, myself running, where I'm genuinely standing for a minute going, do I want to do this? I could just go back to bed. I'm trying to talk myself out of it. I don't think there's that level of talking for him, maybe. It's not talking himself out of it. It's just, I don't really feel like doing it, but you're doing it. Like you're just going through the process. There's no real hurdles that you have to overcome to do that.
Yeah, certainly that. And the things that you see with him talking about is, man, my legs are really sore today. Like I've smashed them yesterday and they're hurting. And it's he doesn't get enjoyment from the hurt itself, but it's what that hurt represented perhaps yesterday. And then it's like, okay, but if I want some of that tomorrow, it's kind of like, if you're new to a sport or something, or you want to get into something, it's like, I want to. I imagine when people look at someone who's like really aesthetically pleasing, they've got like a shit ton of muscle, or perhaps they've got a really big booty, and they look at them and they're like, oh, I want to be like that. If they imagine what does it feel to be like that, they probably think it's like, man, it must feel amazing. Like,
yeah.
But it's like, no, actually, you feel hurt a lot of the time. You feel sore because to get to there, you need to put in a shit ton of work. And so it's the feeling of soreness is kind of what you want to be aiming for in a sense. The aim, the goal, shifting your goal so that it's like, if I'm feeling sore all the time, is maybe a good thing. Now, look, you can take that way to the extreme, and then this is where I guess the opposite side of training harder, not smarter is, okay, but what about form? Where does form fit into this? Because if you're training muscle ups, for example, you can train really hard and do the chicken wing method, and you can train that a lot. It's also really stupid. You're probably going to hurt yourself in a bad way doing that, where it comes to injuries. And so this is where I think that the injury portion, and where this guy, I've actually forgotten his name, Jake Balaklar, I think is his name. He probably doesn't talk about the injury prevention / management as much. He's 26, so that's kind of like prime years, 27. That's probably like prime years in terms of like you can just do stuff and not get injured.
Maybe there's a little bit of,
I'd be curious to know in 5 years' time if he still has the train harder, not smarter mantra. I'm now almost 34, and I still kind of like it in a way. I do like the emphasis on volume is the key, and the smarter portion. It's important, but it should be. Probably the most accurate thing would be train 80% harder, train 20% smarter. Or something.
I think my whole view of this thing is that it's both. It's if anyone and broaden it to every, whether it's beyond fitness and to everything else. I think it's just you should train and work hard. Absolutely, like that's like fundamental. Do it, but also do it smart. Like do both. Like both. It's like train hard, not smart, or like train smart, not hard. I hate that. Again, we're keeping in fitness. I see a lot of sometimes out there people who are like, I can get all of my workout in 17 minutes every week, and that's all I need to do to maintain. Like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. Like, I enjoy training, but also, yes, you don't want to be training 1 million, toe raises to try and get bigger biceps. That's stupid. That's also not going to achieve what you want. So I think training hard and training smart, like both. You need both. And the smart bit helps you in getting better and injury prevention. But if you want to just get better genuinely, then you just need the reps, the time, the movement thing. Yeah. It's sort of like, I'm thinking golf. You can go out there and swing like a retard and probably get goodish in comparison, but then you're going to be prone to, shoulder injury or, some other injury because you're not doing the right movement, like a repetitive type strain. You might just cap yourself because you might be able to, if you swing more through the velocity for a torso rather than your arms, you're just limiting yourself somehow. So sure, the smartness gives you that extra degree, but there's going to be no replacement for doing something a million times, right? Swinging a million times. By the millionth swing, you're probably going to figure out something to do with your body mechanics and what hits, best from a right swing to a left swing and blah, blah, blah. Same thing for any type of training.
Do you know the stats on professional athletes, what their average IQ is?
No.
Do you think it'd be higher or just the average?
It's an interesting question. I reckon it'd be lower.
Yeah?
I reckon it'd be lower. Yeah. I reckon it'd be lower. I reckon they would have a quite strong intelligence for the game that they play, in that there's the minutiae just of knowing something mastery, but in a broad sense of things, I'm talking
just average IQ,
I reckon lower.
How we...
I'm going to say lower.
I'm going to say lower. Yep. Interesting. Yep. Yeah, for me, I would probably say it's just the normal, around 100.
Mm-hmm.
And which would kind of go against the smarter aspect, because, when people in this context, smarter is like using intelligence or using intelligence. I've heard intelligence described as like getting what you want out of life. So like if you've got a higher IQ, smarter, then you should be able to get more of what you want out of life. And in this case, we're saying like competitive, like higher levels of competitiveness and higher levels of achievement. So therefore you would kind of think, okay, if the train smarter, not harder.
I don't know if that's true.
If you're smarter, then you're training smarter, and then you're not training, the hard pass. If there's more emphasis on the smartness than the hardness of aka volume, then you would expect more professional athletes to have a higher IQ. And this is where I go, okay, well, the volume aspect is probably and I would argue is the real factor. The smartness aspect, yes, it helps, but it's not as much.
Yeah, I'd almost even say there'd be aspects of being a little bit lower in the smartness range that actually helps in terms of like you just don't overthink things, you don't even think about limitations, you're just doing, right? Like you're like animalistic in the sense, then you could become better. I'm sure there is countless ways that if you just stop thinking about whatever it was, like for me, if I really dumped down and I did not think about the constraints of running or other things, I'm sure I could become a better runner for certain. But I think, there's probably some like good qualities of not being as smart if you're great from a sporting perspective.
Here's probably my example, which is what I'm doing right now is very similar to what I was doing in 2020, 2021 when I was running last. Very similar, like goal, the 4-hour marathon, and getting quicker subtimes within that. The amount of training and dedication I'm putting towards that is roughly the same. What's like one of the bigger differences? The bigger difference now is I'm not working as the intellectual portion is not as much. So I'm in fact training like more stupidly at the moment. I'm just putting the headphones in and running at what I feel is a nice pace and what I feel like I can just maintain for a fair while. Like it's not even like maintain for exactly 10 kilometers. No, it's just what feels kind of good.
Sure.
I'm already running as fast, if not slightly faster than what I used to. I'm just putting in some like headphones and, before it used to be like the headphones are distracting me. Like I gotta be locked in and dialed in. Each step counts, like fucking move it. So and this is, I was in my 20s back then, so you would have think like, oh, that's more peak performance time, and no, it's the running a little bit dumber is actually working really well for me.
There you go. So that's our insight. Just get dumber. Everybody get dumber if you want to get better at fitness.
Get a head injury.
If you want to become better at mastery of your sport and your domain, get dumber. Go smash your head against the wall a couple of times and it'll be good. I don't know. I just think you can work hard and you can work smart. But if you had to pick one, if you really had to pick one, go with the working harder. I think that the working harder and the volume is going to pay more dividends than becoming smarter at anything. And I reckon you could pick anything in this domain. If you had to pick, I'm just thinking golf at the time when I used to do a lot more golf, just repeatedly putting and doing small chips and doing that for an hour is going to be way better than really theoretically looking at maybe doing 10 shots, but really getting close. Like, okay, what's the exact technique? There is obvious improvements of both ways, but just doing it enough times gives you a feeling of distance and blah, blah,
more than going to a simulator where they can, video, 3D imagery of your golf swing.
100%.
See exactly where, you got to start at this angle. So you should really be working at starting at.
We're not anything close to anything golf related, but I went to the Kelvin Grove driving range the other day and just borrowed the clubs or whatever. And I was saying to my wife, I was like, look, let me show you something. And I was like, I can still predict roughly how much distance I can hit. And I was like, look, this one will be about 80. And it was like 84 meters. The next one, this will be about 100, 107 meters. And the next one I'll do about 120. And it was 129 meters. Now, it isn't exact and it does go, wildly. But I went, this is purely like the reps I used to do once upon a time, just knowing like, swing it up to this distance and then just let it go. Of course, did it go directly straight? Probably not. Did it like slice up a little bit? Yeah, probably. But it wasn't
probably hitting it like 300 meters, but it's just
but going 90 degrees the wrong way. But it was probably 5-degree difference from straight. Like it was a pretty good shot. I was like, oh, damn. Now in my mind, I go, this is not a technique thing. Like I wouldn't have gained this if I had done the same amount of like rough training, but it was just 10 shots at the perfect shot with a 3D rendering. Absolutely not. And you see this everywhere. It's just the doing, especially if you're a beginner, man, it's just doing it that gives you the insight. Yeah. If you've never played tennis, I don't think you're going to get that much benefit from just really practicing a particular top spin or something, as opposed to just go and play for 3 hours. And I reckon at the end of the 3 hours, you'd probably have a bit of a sense of your biomechanics. Are you doing things wrong? Likely. But can you then improve on them after that? Absolutely. Handstands. Just do a week straight of handstand 2 hours every day. I bet you by the end of that, you have a feeling of, okay, I know I can balance if I do this and if I don't do that. At that point, you can start getting a little bit smarter.
Yeah, the trick is ramping up volume as well. Jake, he can run those 2 hours a day and extremely long distances. But if we tried to run those extremely long distances,
would break. The body would break for sure.
Our body would break, and it would just take so much time that it would be impossible. So it's like you gotta get the volume in. Like perhaps like train increasingly harder, not increasingly smarter. Is perhaps the
true. Yeah. That's a good way.
The real definition of yes, volume matters, and doing it in a smartish way, so you're not getting hurt, but. It's about
that's good. That's probably a good way. Yeah, have a minimum smart safety standard, and then just progress on the effort as much as you can with it.
So it was fun looking back at the handstands. I'm like, in what I used to be able to do in a session was I'd probably do like 8 sets with like 4 reps of various things. Actually, no, it wouldn't be because I wasn't doing 2 arms back then. 4 exercises, 4 sets, and reps of like a max hold or coming up and working on the negative portion of a straddle press or something like this. I was probably getting like 10 minutes of actual handstand time in during an hour to an hour and a half of working out. I can do 10 minutes now and if I really pressed it, I could probably do that in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can do way, way, way much more.
Yeah, way
And
more
it's
volume
just-
at a time.
I wouldn't have thought that was possible 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And I attribute it to, yes, over time, like I am doing more now than I ever have before.
For sure.
Like more, and my body can handle it now. Whereas, 5 years ago, like my wrist, you saw me complaining on the podcast all the time. Like my wrist, there was other stuff going on. Mum's illness was certainly playing a factor of stress levels for myself, and that was kind of manifesting, I think, in the hands. But the just pure like just doing more, and that's my main outcome is like I'm better at handstands than ever, and I'm able to do more now than I ever have before.
That's the summary. It's
awesome.
Do more. Let's
Do
do
more.
more. I think we'll leave it there. I don't know if there's any comments we've got on this
Nah,
particular one. So I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in once again.
Thank you.
9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on the Sundays. We'll see how March goes, obviously, depending on when baby number dos comes along. So when it does, just be aware there'll be a baby. So it'll be busy.
Next week we'll see. Hopefully next Sunday. But
Correct. All right, mere mortal lights, be well. One out.
Current.
Good.